Hello everyone! Welcome to Sophisticated DIY. In today's video, I'm gonna make the Tokyo jeans using the free Danny Choo pattern. These jeans are for the smart doll with the pear body. But obviously, you can make any jeans you want, even a full jeans, like your regular jeans that you can wear, by following these instructions. And of course, with the right pattern. So, let's go! The first thing I'm gonna do is to wash my denim, just in case it shrinks after the jeans are done. After I did wash it, I realized that the pattern is considering a 5% shrinkage, so maybe I didn't need to do it, but it's okay, it's done already. After I wash it and dry it, then I'm gonna iron it and make sure to remove all the creases. It is so smart to count the shrinkage in the pattern. This is the pattern, and the first thing you have to do is confirm that it's printed to the real scale. So the pattern brings a measurement of 10 centimeters, and I confirm that it's all good. Something else is to use the proper paper. I live in Canada and I have leather page 8.5 by 11 inches, and they are not long enough for those patterns. I made a paper of the right length so I could print it properly. The next step I'm gonna do is to join the pieces that needs to be joined together. The pants is a little bit too long to fit in one page, so we have to join together the upper pants with the lower pants. Then I have the rest of my pieces, and what I need to do is to cup them all. This is the pocket, isn't it cute? I try to identify all the pieces while I'm cutting them, so the sewing will be a little bit easier. The facing the pocket, then I have the belt loops, the waist, and I think I will need to join the two pieces of the waistband, as you don't want to have the bulky seam allowance on them. So pretty much I have all my pieces, and now I'm gonna prepare the fabric to cut my patterns. I'm gonna use a very thin cotton to cut the waistband lining and the pocket lining. As I make a jeans for myself in the past, this is a cut that I have, and I'm gonna accommodate it the best way I can so I don't waste too much material. Not that this material are too big or you are wasting too much, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna pin all my pieces because I feel like this way is the easiest for me, but you can cut them in the way you prefer, and making sure to place all those pieces to the grain. Each piece of the pattern has the grain marked, and I'm gonna make sure that this grain is parallel to the grain of the fabric. With this piece that I just cut from the edge, I'm gonna cut the belt loops. When you cut your patterns, try to make it very slow and very delicate. The curves are really narrow, so you have to be very careful if you want to achieve a nice finished product. And here you go, they are all cut except for the pocket and the waistband. I need two pieces of the waistband, and I'm gonna cut one with the jeans fabric and the other one with the cotton fabric. And for the pocket, I use the same thin cotton I showed you before. Now is the time for sewing. I have 3 threads here. One is a regular thread and 2 of them are jeans thread, but not really thick jeans thread, because remember we are working at 1/3 of the scale. First, I'm gonna try to find the right length of the stitch, and then I'm gonna try all the thread to see which one will look better. And I think the yellow one, it will stand out more than the rest of them. For the bobbin, I'm gonna use the normal thread so I don't get anything too bulky. And I'm gonna make sure how much the seam allowance is. This is the piece for the pocket lining, and as you can see, it has the same shape as the pants with the pocket. So pretty much what I need to do is to put them together with the pants. Probably is a better idea to sew the facing before, but sometimes I think you get less confused if you do that first. After I do the first stitch, I'm gonna reduce the seam allowance so it's not that bulky, and I'm gonna make a few notches so the curve will fold better. Believe it or not, this is a very important step. You see how well it folded? Well, still, I'm gonna go to my ironing board and I'm gonna make sure to iron in a way that the white part of this seam won't be visible at all outside, so my pants will look better. Well, this is the facing, and as I said, you probably needed to do that step before, but it's okay. As you can see, it says that it has to be serged at the side and at the bottom. But right now, I'm gonna serge the side only because the bottom will be finished with the pockets, you know. I'm using a navy blue thread and red because, you know, the red with the serger with the jeans looks phenomenal. I love it. Now I'm gonna put the pieces, and as you can see, when I fold it, it will be all good. This is why sometimes I sew that part later, because that way I make sure that I don't make any mistake. Yes, I have made a lot of mistakes sewing pockets. Sometimes I kind of forgot and sew it backwards and then I have to open, but that way I just, you know, make it well for the first time. So as you can see the pattern, now is the time to make top stitch for my pocket. You know, when you sew that, you have to be so careful. You have to be really going slow, and then you will be ready to fold your pocket and sew the bottom part and then serge it, or make a French seam as I did. When I cut the patterns, I forgot to snip the notches, and I'm doing that right now because you need those marks in order to sew your garments in an accurate way. It's the time to do the dreaded zipper fly. But let me show you how I do it. I printed an extra front piece and I'm now cutting the part that will need to be top stitch in the left side. And now it will be so easy for me to mark that in my pattern, you see? Then I need to mark the right, and this is why I'm cutting the extra material that you need in just one of the sides. If you look at the pattern says until where you have to sew to join those stitches, and I'm gonna mark that too. And for easy serging, I'm gonna cut a little bit so I can manage the serger a little bit easier. Anyways, it wasn't easy at all. To serge that is really, you have to be so careful. Anyways, I sew more or less until it says that has to be sewn, but it doesn't matter because that will be done with a top stitch at the end. That's normal. And I sew my little tight J. I call it a J because it has like the shape of a J, and this is so cute. Now I'm gonna sew the other side. It's just a line, and then I'm gonna make sure to stitch it together. But I realized that when I sew the first time, I didn't sew like a really at the right seam allowance, so I open it and do it again, and now it's good. Now my last stitch is the stitch that goes on top, that is called the front flat fail, and I'm gonna go straight, go a little bit over the zipper fly, and then I pivot, go straight horizontal, and then pivot again, and then go down, and I have a perfect zipper fly. Look how cute it looks. It's so comfortable. Look at the pocket. I marked the inside part of the pocket, and now I'm gonna cut the upper part of the pocket in an extra pattern, and I'm gonna mark that. It's because I need to mark the top stitch in an accurate way to make sure that they both will be symmetrical. It's a little bit tricky, so like a little by little. I'm not sure if you realize that I'm using like a sewing starter, like I use a fabric to start the seam. That way it doesn't get crumpled. I can sew in a more smooth way. I have to sew that a few times until I have a good top stitch. And what I'm gonna do with the other, I'm gonna mark it on a piece of cardboard. Usually when I buy quarter of fabric, they come wrapped in a cardboard, and I always keep them because I can do so many things with them. See, I use that cardboard to fold fold the edges, and now I can top stitch the edges of my pocket. Again, I start with a piece of fabric, so it will be easier, and you can finish with a piece of fabric too. And it's so cute. I have my two pieces sewn together, and now I'm gonna fold the rest of the pocket. You have to be so careful so you don't burn your fingers, but if you really have the patience, you can fold that very well. And I have my two pockets folded, prepared for my pockets. So now I'm gonna mark where I'm gonna sew those pockets. So I use the extra pattern to make a little hole on the pocket placement, and that way I can just put it over my fabric and mark perfectly the right placement of my pocket. And like that, I'm gonna remove the cardboard, and I'm gonna place my pocket exactly where the mark is, and I'm gonna sew my pocket. As you can see, I'm using a nesty letter to help me guide the fabric because this is so small that you have to be careful. And here you go, this is one, and I'm gonna do the same with the other, but I'm gonna add some kind of label. Why not? I'm using just a piece of ribbon, and I should have burned it before. You don't want to take the risk, but I forgot to do it, but it's good to do it. I'm gonna now place my second pocket, and here we go. Doesn't it look good? To finish my back pieces, now I need to sew the yoke. Make sure to put it in the right place, and remember that you have just to pin together the notches, and you will be sure that everything will fall in place. Then you go to your serger machine and you serge all those pieces, and as you might have noticed already, I use my iron a lot because that really helps with your work. And I'm gonna do my two top stitch, and you see how the body shape is forming in the pants. It looks great. I serge as well the center piece because after I sew it, I'm gonna do the double stitch with the seam allowance open. So I'm gonna make sure to do one stitch to the left of the seam allowance and another to the right. That way my pants looks like with the double stitch, and it will look so great. It will be centered. Now I'm gonna join together the inseam part of my pants, and because we have the double stitch in those pieces, sometimes that moves too much when you try to sew it. So first I'm gonna make sure that these two pieces are in the same place, sewing just that part. And even though I pinned them, still it wasn't good. So I opened again and did it again until it looks good. Now I can sew my inseam. And I realized that the thread of the bobbin finished. You know, when you do that seam and you think it's perfect, it's because you don't have thread in the bobbin. But it's okay. I finished that seam, and then I'm going to my serger machine and I'm gonna serge all of it to then go back to the sewing machine, and I'm gonna make a top stitch. When you do that top stitch, make sure that the top stitch go to the front piece of your fabric. And now is the time to sew the sides. For me, it's very important to pin it just to make sure that I don't move one piece more than the other. I think it's advisable. After I sew those side seams, I'm going to my serger machine, and my pants are almost ready. Now is the time to make the belt loops. I have this material here, and what you are gonna do is to serge just one of the sides, and then you are gonna fold first the side that is not serged, and then the side that is serged, so it will be all clean. After you have that, you are going to make two top stitch in the edges, and now I'm gonna mark where I need to cut all my belt loops. There are 5 in total, and I thought that I needed to put it inside of the belt, but they are too short for that. So I'm gonna do my waistband, and remember that one side was with the jeans and the other side was with the thin cotton fabric. I sew them together, and then I'm gonna turn it to the right side, and I'm just go ahead and I'm gonna sew my waistband to the pants. and I'm gonna make sure to join together all the notches I did. And oops, I almost forgot to make first the side stitches. These stitches has to be done before of the waistband, otherwise it wouldn't look so clean. So I stopped, I did my 2 side stitches, and then I'm going back to my waistband. You know, you want that jeans to be authentic. This is why you want to make all the steps. When I finish to sew my waistband, then I just have to accommodate the waistband very well, and I'm gonna make now the top stitch. As I did with the pocket, I make sure that the white cotton fabric is tucked underneath, and I'm gonna do a top stitch all around. Now I'm gonna mark my belt loops because the pattern is marking even where you need to fold it, so that's great. And before I sew them, I'm gonna make sure to mark the pants very well so the belt loops are completely symmetrical. So I'm gonna mark it in one side of the pants and then exactly in the same part at the other side, and then I'm gonna just sew those belt loops. I'm gonna fold it as it was marked, and I'm gonna go back and forth. But if you can do it in zigzag, it's way better, it's more authentic. I don't do it in zigzag because it's so bulky, and sometimes the zigzag gets stuck if you don't have the proper machine. But you can do it if you do it very slowly. Now is the time for the hem, and I was debating if I wanted to fold it twice, but because of the scale, I'm gonna follow the instruction which says that search and then fold. The instruction says to do double stitch, but usually the hems have just one stitch, so I'm gonna make just one stitch. I just gonna mark it, and I'm gonna just stitch at the right side of the material because I feel this size the stitches are more beautiful. And now I'm ironing all those seams, and I'm using this stick so I can iron it in the same way you would be ironing if you were doing your own pair of pants. So everything is done. Now I'm gonna put a snap to close those pants. I ordered those special snaps that are very small. They are to the scale, and I'm gonna just install them. Cute, huh? And I found as well those small rivets. I'm just gonna use one pair, and I couldn't put it all the way because they are not really deep enough, but I think just for the look. And here you go, this is the jeans. They look great. I do not have the pair Smart Doll. It's my dream to have one. But in the meantime, I'm happy to see all the details are exactly like the jeans. I'm just missing a little zipper. And love the pockets, love everything about them. Please let me know in the comments, what kind of jeans do you think are more flattering? Do you think that we should bring back the low rise? I really love this style. If you find this video entertaining or useful, please give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe, share, comment. Bye!